Fallacies, despite being wrong, usually appear to be correct and thereby can convince people into accepting them. Fallacies generally result in arguments that are weak, unsound, or invalid. These 8 fallacies are examples of informal fallacies, whose error can also be due to their content and context. Argument from ignorance. We claim that something is true because it has not been proven false. Or else, we say that something must be false because it has not been proved true. Ignorance, in this case, means lack of contrary evidence. Examples of this fallacy. You can't prove you didn't eat the last biscuit, therefore you ate it. Or, you can't prove Socrates existed, therefore he didn't. Arguments from ignorance take one of these forms. 1. X is true because you cannot prove that X is false. Or, 2. X is false because you cannot prove that X is true. Argument from inappropriate authority. We try to make convincing claims but fail to provide an appropriate source of evidence to back those claims. Here's an example of this fallacy. My grandma used to say that boys should play soldiers, and girls play with dolls. She's seen a lot in her long life, you know. She must be right. Arguments from inappropriate authority take this form. According to person X, who offers little to no expertise on why being true, Y is true, therefore, Y is true. Argument against the man, or ad hominem fallacy. 2 forms of ad hominem are abusive and circumstantial. In abusive ad hominem, we attack the person making the argument based on some personal characteristic, rather than the argument itself. The attack on the person is completely irrelevant to the argument made by the person. Here's an example of abusive ad hominem. Jim, ugliest man on the planet, thinks child beauty contests should be banished. Now that's what I call rich. The fallacy takes on forms such as person X claims Y. Person X has some disagreeable personal characteristic. Therefore, Y is false. In circumstantial ad hominem, we suggest that the person making the argument is biased, and therefore their argument is necessarily invalid. Here's an example. Veronica wants all animal circuses closed down. Of course she does. She's vegan. Circumstantial ad hominem can take the following form. Person X claims Y. Person X's circumstances are biased. Therefore, Y is false. Begging the question. When begging the question, we assume the conclusion of an argument in one of the premises. Here's an example. Chocolate is good for you, because it is healthy. Begging the question is a type of circular argument. It can take the following form. X is true because X is true. Another form can be X is true because Y, and Y is true because X. Here's an example of this form. Mark is a great colleague according to Jim, and Jim knows great colleagues according to Mark. Appeal to emotion. When appealing to emotion in a fallacious way, we try to win an argument by manipulating the interlocutor's emotions instead of by providing factual evidence. For example, this Christmas, get your groceries from Tesco. Families who get their groceries from Tesco are happy families. Appeal to emotion can take the following form. Person X claims that Y is true. Instead of evidence, some emotion is used to support the claim that Y is true. Enjoying this video? Please like, share and subscribe to support more content. Appeal to pity. In order to win an argument, instead of providing rational evidence, we provoke irrelevant feelings of pity or sympathy. For example, you should eat your Brussels sprouts. Think of the starving children. Appeal to pity can take the following form. Person X makes claim Y. Instead of evidence, pity or sympathy is used to support the claim that Y is true. Appeal to force. Rather than making a rational argument, we intimidate another party, or force them to agree, through the threat of physical or mental violence. Here's an example. If you don't want any trouble, you'd better keep quiet about what happened. Appeal to force can take the following form. Unless person X accepts claim Y, then Z will follow. Z is a threat of force. Therefore, Y is true. Irrelevant conclusion. We present a conclusion that is irrelevant to the claim or argument being made. Therefore, the conclusion doesn't follow from the premises. For example, Saturday is the best day of the week. Therefore, Tuesday is the worst, since it's not Saturday. Irrelevant conclusion may take the following form. Person X concludes that Z, following claim Y. However, Z does not logically follow from Y. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to support more Philosophy MT content.